Hi, just checking with the judges. Is everyone ready or should we wait a little?
Um, I'm ready, but I don't think any of the judges are here yet.
Amir, don't you need to get our positions and speaking roles?
Already done for focus. For you guys, it's Hazik as first, Zarif as second, and Ayman as third, right?
And reply is me. Yep.
All right. Thank
All
you.
right, thanks.
I think most of the judges aren't here yet, so I'm going to go for a toilet break. 5 minutes.
All right. We should begin at 3:20 then.
Hello.
Yep. All right. So I'll assume that as we're all ready to start.
Yes.
All right. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon I bid to all. With the blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are gladly able to gather here today for Dean's Cup. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I thank all of you for joining us today, and I welcome each and every one of you warmly. My name is Amir, and I am your chairperson and timekeeper for today's debate. I would also like to introduce our very esteemed judges. We have Brother Talha, Sister Munira, Brother Amir, Sister Christina, and Brother Hanafi. So, before we begin, I will briefly explain the rules of which all of you must be familiar with by now. Speeches should be 7 minutes in duration. Speakers exceeding this may be penalized, but should never be substantially less than this. A bell will be rung after every consecutive minute. After 6 minutes, the bell will be rung twice. After 7 minutes, the bell will be rung until the speaker stops delivering their speech. POIs can only be offered after the expiration of 1 minute and may not be given after the expiration of 6 minutes. POIs may only be given to opposing teams and should be generally not more than 15 seconds in duration. If the speaker exceeds the 15-second duration, the chairperson, which is me, may request the speaker to end their POI. The duration of the reply speech will be 4 minutes. Speakers must use formal language. Inappropriate language is prohibited. Debate sessions will always start with the government's first speaker, that being the Prime Minister, of which it is followed by the opposition leader, Deputy Prime Minister, Deputy Leader of Opposition, Government's Whip, and will end with the opposition's whip. For reply speeches, both government and opposition sides will be given 4 minutes of preparation for reply speeches. With the rules explained, we will now start our second debate, which is the final debate of today. The motion before this House today is: this House supports the implementation of a common currency among ASEAN countries. So, introducing our teams, we have the government team, MEDCY, with Haziq as the first speaker, Zarif as the second speaker, and Ayman as the third speaker. The reply speech for government will be delivered by Haziq. The opposition team is FOCHUSS, with Shazlin as the first speaker, Zul as the second speaker, and Mat as the third speaker. The reply speech will be delivered by Zul. Before starting, I must request FOCHUSS to change their background to the opposition side. All right. Without further ado, let's welcome our first speaker from the government side, Haziq, to open the floor for the debate.
Assalamu alaikum. Am I audible first of all?
Wa alaikum salam, brother. Yes.
All right, let's begin. Assalamu alaikum. I bid to the judges, chairperson, focus team, and my fellow teammates. Right. So the motion before the House today is: this House supports the implementation of a common currency among ASEAN countries. All right. So before we get into what the debate is talking about, I'd like to first define some key terms within the motion. So the definitions, I would like to focus on two things, which is common currency. Common currency to mean same legal tender used throughout a community. For example, you can look at the euro used in European countries, right? So a similar system to that, but what specific system we are going to use will be explained in my mechanism in a little while more. All right. And then the second term in the debate is ASEAN countries. So ASEAN countries, for those who are not familiar, are an intergovernmental organization of 10 Southeast Asian countries, such as Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, to name a few. There are more. All right. So then in the debate, the motion states this House supports the implementation of a common currency among ASEAN countries. So this debate is going to be about when we implement a common currency where everyone shares the same currency in a certain region, what benefit does that bring to society? And are there any cons brought about by it? So we as the government team are here to propose that the benefits are far greater than any of the cons, and the benefits are worth us going through the hurdles that it'll take to achieve this common currency. Because we are obviously not ignorant to the fact that making a policy change this big of making a new currency, common currency for all ASEAN countries are going to have steps and hurdles along the way. But we are here to prove to y'all that the benefits that will come from this are worth taking the jumps over these hurdles that we will face. And the opposition team has to prove that the cons are not worth us taking it, and we should just remain the status quo, which honestly, I do not like. And I don't think any Malaysians like, or any people in the ASEAN countries like. All right, so how are we going to implement this? Obviously, we can make it a debate about ideologies and assuming there's a perfect system, a perfect common currency, and then just weigh the pros and cons. But obviously, you need to root it in some concrete evidence or concrete system. So what system, what do we mean by implement? This is our mechanism. We can't just say, ringgit today, tomorrow, the common currency. And by the way, throughout this debate, we have made a name for the common currency to make it easier. We call it SEAN, S-E-A-N, because why not? All right, so the implementation is a gradual implementation, first of all, right? Because if you just say ringgit today, SEAN tomorrow, everyone's going to go mad. Obviously, that is a stupid idea, right? So the gradual implementation will start with an announcement to all the ASEAN countries, first of all. So all members, all ASEAN member countries will know about this. Their societies will know about this. The people in the countries will know about this. All right. So now everyone knows about this, and we are a democracy, right? We do not want to be communists or anything, right? So the countries in ASEAN are democracies, and therefore the people's voices matter. So we will have a vote in all the ASEAN countries. Because one point that could have been brought up by the opposition would be, what if some countries don't want to join? What if some countries are comfortable with how they are? Fine, they can stay out of it. The countries that want to join will vote and they will join, because we want what is best for people. And when we prove to you throughout this debate that there are many benefits from a common currency, then logically, people within the country would want to support this. And therefore, the votes will win. And now, countries that want to join this common currency would need to reach a certain benchmark of economic growth. Because obviously, if you're bad in your economy and you just jump in and suddenly your economy is good, that's kind of taking advantage of the system. So you need to reach a certain benchmark where your economy is stable. That is the benchmark. You need to have a stable economy before you can join. Obviously, this will be discussed amongst the ASEAN members. And then finally, are we just going to get rid of the ringgit Malaysia? Obviously not. It is a dual currency system where you have the ASEAN currency and the Malaysian currency, which is similar to what is used in the European systems. So with the mechanism explained, I would like to get into the points that my team is going to make. First of all, my point is going to be how we are escaping from the economic oppression of the West. Because our currencies right now are all based on the US dollar and is controlled by it. And therefore, it is a form of oppression. And then my second speaker will speak about how this will benefit, the common currency will benefit ASEAN countries as a whole. Sure, at the start, it may be rough, but in the long term, it will benefit us together from the aspect of tourism. Because tourism is one of the most important and most essential forms of economic growth in ASEAN countries. All right, now with that I would like to get into my points. All right, so first of all, escape from economic oppression. If you look at the members of the ASEAN countries, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, what do you find in common about all of them? We have all been colonized, right? So I always question when we celebrate our independence and whatnot, are we truly independent? What is independence? Are we truly free from the shackles of our colonizers? What we see right now is we are being shackled down and held down by currency because we are based our currency on the American dollar and whatnot. So this is a form of economic oppression. And so to get out of this economic oppression, we must band together as a society, as ASEAN together, to fight this economic oppression given by our colonizers. Because they just left our countries and were like, oh yeah, we're not colonizing you anymore. But there is a secret form of colonialism, which is through the form of economics. And therefore, the opposition might propose that, oh, some countries in ASEAN, there's a disparity in their currencies and whatnot, right? So some countries are poor, some countries are rich. For example, Singapore, way richer than us. Again, as mentioned in the mechanism, a vote will be made and countries that want to join can join. And so what if there's a disparity? We are one and united, and we want to better our community together as a whole because we share common ground. That is why we created ASEAN in the first place. So what we want to prove, what I mean by this is escaping from economic oppression together as a society. If we are weak, but if we stand together, we can grow stronger together. That is why we want to implement a common currency so we can have more better teamwork in ASEAN communities. All right, so what side opposition would have to do now is to prove that the cons from a common currency would outweigh the pros of us standing together against oppression, all the benefits that would be brought about by having a common currency that allows teamwork between ASEAN countries together as a whole. So with that, I'd like to end my speech. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much to Haziq, the Prime Minister, for the government side. Now, let's please welcome the first speaker of the opposition, Shaz, to open the case for the opposition side.
Let me have a second to rearrange my notes.
Sure, sure. Okay.
Focus. Hindi lang. Kita tinggal di pa. Okay, boleh dengar tu. It's unmuted. I will be beginning my speech in 1, 2, 3. Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon. I'd like to bid to honorable judges and members of the floor. Today we are here to debate the motion. This House supports the implementation of a common currency among ASEAN countries. First of all, I would like to challenge the mechanism as set by the government side, seeing as the characterization mechanism given by the government side is both unfair and narrows down the debate to their advantage. And it is contradictory, as they said that they want to let ASEAN countries vote whether or not they will be able to join this common currency, which is against the motion of ASEAN countries. And We, as the opposition side, would like to propose our own characterization for this debate to ensure that this debate will end both just and fair to both sides, which is when all ASEAN countries would have to join this common currency. And we, as the opposition side, stand behind the stance to implement a common currency among ASEAN countries is improbable and difficult. And if it was possible, it is not sustainable and as a long term, causing more economic harm than good. Okay, to begin with our burden of proof, we as opposition side have to prove that the implementation of a common currency will bring more harm than good in ASEAN countries. And then the government side will have to prove that ASEAN countries are going to willingly participate in the implementation of a common currency. And two, the government side needs to prove how ASEAN has enough similarities to the EU to be able to implement the same system that they've implemented and not go through drastic economic side effects of the common currency. Moving on to the stakeholders, which is ASEAN countries, thus there will be direct clashes. And then the case split for this debate is first vast difference between the ASEAN countries, two, ASEAN principles and goals, three, sovereignty. Before I get into my argumentation, I would like to first rebut the things said from the government prime minister. He stated that the first point is escaping economic currency from the West, which is escaping the colonialism from the West. And I would like to say that when we are able to escape the currency from the West, then we will be chained to the will of China. This will be further elaborated by my second speaker. And then, as I said before, their mechanism actually goes against the motion of ASEAN countries and narrows down the debate to be biased on their side. Okay, starting off with my argumentation, which is the first difference between ASEAN countries. The members of ASEAN have diverging economic integration paths. We need to take note that ASEAN Way implies non-interference in the internal affairs of the member nations. ASEAN has deliberately avoided creating a supranational regional institution, and it also has avoided a strong EU-type agency for a reason. ASEAN through a major economic bloc, when compared to the EU is a more stronger and more successful regional organization. In Europe, you are able to implement a common currency because the lines between the nations are blurred. And because of this, there is a free movement of labor and economic resources. This cannot be said for ASEAN countries, as there is a vast difference between ASEAN countries in terms of history, culture, and more importantly, economic standing. While both organizations have a focus on regional integration, the EU has evolved in the supranational entity with its own legal system, currency in some member states, and decision-making bodies, whereas ASEAN remains an intergovernmental organization where decisions are made by consensus among member states. This means that many ASEAN countries will have to learn to compromise on its economic goals and its policies to achieve the goal of implementing a common currency in the first place, which is difficult. Which is, as I said, which is already difficult state of execution to agree on, as seen as a lack of cooperation and outright conflict in recent examples, the ethnic cleansing of Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar. So do you want to say that Malaysia, as an ASEAN country, should implement a common currency with a nation that is having an ethnic cleansing of Rohingya Muslims? Moving on with my argumentation, which is economic convergence. As ASEAN countries have different levels of economic development, it will be difficult to maintain a stable common currency. So given that this was implemented, then it would be hard for this system to be sustained. The different economies in ASEAN include resource-based economies, manufacturing-based economies, service-based economies, and agricultural-based economies. Thus, it will be hard to implement a common currency and sustain it. At close to 25%, the share of the integrational trade in the ASEAN total trade, although lower than the EU, which is 40%, shows that we are not integrated well economically as compared to the EU. Thus, sustaining a common currency may be even more difficult than adopting it. Four constraints that have generally been mentioned in discussions are worth special attention. Yes.
So you mentioned that the EU is different from ASEAN countries, but because the EU started early, if we do not start, then what are we going to do? Just remain in the status quo where there's a big economic disparity?
We are not saying that EU is better than the ASEAN countries because it started earlier. It's because we have such economic difference. How would you want to implement this as of right now? And then moving on, there is difference in diversity in the level of economic development across countries, weakness in the financial sectors of many countries, and the inadequacy of regional level resource pooling mechanisms and institutional required for forming and managing a currency union. And four, lack of political precondition for monetary cooperation and common currency. This means all of these economies have different factors and agendas at play, meaning any small butterfly effect on current global economy would lead to the downfall of collective ASEAN as a common currency relying on the economic performance of the country of whole. The diversity in the level of economic development among ASEAN countries is quite large. Singapore, the richest country in the group, has a per capita income close to 300 times the per capita income of Myanmar, the poorest country in the group. In conclusion, it's proven that the difference of ASEAN members comparative to the execution of EU euros will cause more harm than good, as it will drag down economies, cause political and economic conflict within the region. And to that, I end my speech. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for your speech, Leader of Opposition. I'll now call upon the second speaker for the government side, the Deputy Prime Minister, Zarif, to continue the debate for the government side.
All right, thank you. Well, I want to rebuttal is that you say that it's unfair and against the motion as say that ASEAN country. Well, the motion itself said among ASEAN country doesn't mean it all, totally all. And you said that the mechanism is unfair, it's biased for us, right? Well, the reason the mechanism form itself is to ensure the secure for the ASEAN organization for imply the current currency, you said. And you said too that some country have ethnical cleansing, like Myanmar with the Rohingya case. Well, why do we want to work with Myanmar, right? Well, if we try to work with Myanmar and have great diplomacy with Myanmar, does the action can help improve the situation more? Well, it does improve. Well, enough for rebuttal. I want to go for my point. So implement common currency, bring high benefit in tourism. Most GDP of ASEAN country come from tourism itself, like my first speaker said. For example, nature and adventure tourism, city tourism like KL, and beach tourism like in the Thailand. So why bring high benefit in tourism? As ASEAN currency is widely accepted, making trips more acceptable and make more comfortable and attractive for the tourist itself, and doesn't need to exchange rate every time to travel. Okay, we can divide the tourism into two, ASEAN itself and outside the ASEAN itself. So now imagine if as the ASEAN itself, in the internal region, I want to go to Indonesia. It's easier. I've only carry around 100 sian, right? 100 sian to the Indonesia. And then after use the sian money, I can go to the Brunei itself easily. Doesn't need to go for trying to find the exchange rate people or the trader itself. It's make more harder. Well, imagine for the traveler for outsider like the America, it's more harder for them. For us like Malaysian people, easily can understand the Kalimantan people, but for them like American, there is more harder for them. All right, so why bring high benefit in tourism too? Another point is that it enhance healthy competitive in tourism sector. Why? ASEAN will become most visited country in world, will ensure that make significant contribute to economy itself and generate income all year long. Malaysia itself like around 26.1 million for 2023 last year. That's a lot of tourism in Malaysia. So The last reason why I bring high benefit in tourism is ease of budgeting for tourists. Tourists will find it easier to budget their expense using SIN currencies. How? If they don't using the SIN currency, CIAN currency, the traveler don't have to navigate varying exchange rate. If they're using a CIAN currency along their journey to travel, it making the traveler more predictable every time. So for my second point is improve the capability of local labor work specific to ASEAN people. It help economy of country involved it. So why improve capability of local labor work? Is reducing the migrant coming from one country to another. So most migrant coming to a country, okay, for example, Malaysia, we can see some migrant coming to Malaysia and integrate in the society. And some of it cause a problem a bit in the country itself, which cause a lot of problem in the political system itself and economy and the social system. So other than that, why we need to reducing the migrant coming from another country, also improve job opportunity for the local worker. When using a CIAN, no thank you. For example, the migrant take out of, when using the CIAN, for example, the migrant take the out, okay, for example, sorry, like people from India, let's say, coming to ASEAN country, like people from Myanmar coming to Malaysia, they work there, and when they work and getting the ringgit and bring back to their country, the Myanmar, of course, it will cost reducing the ringgit, reducing the witness power, cost the ringgit to weak. And my last point is that why improve the capability of local labor work? It enhances collaboration in training and development. Using a same currency likely to encourage countries to team up together. Like Singapore team up with Laos, Malaysia, and bring together in like a sector of industry. When making a workforce together, they can improve the better and capability more competent in each region and country. And PI, just now, there's any PI?
Can you explain how does it really help increase the local worker?
Oh, for improve the local work. When most of company in Malaysia will accept more migrant worker because it's more cheaper. If we use the currency of CIAN, it's standardized all. It's same. Company A in Malaysia, 500 CIAN. Company B in Indonesia is 500 CIAN. It's the same. So the worker in the ASEAN or worker in Indonesia can stay in Indonesia itself. Doesn't need to migrate to the Malaysia itself. That's all from me. I raise my case now. Thank you.
All right, I'll take that as the end of the Deputy Prime Minister's speech. So now let's move on to the Deputy Leader of Opposition. From the opposition side, Zul, to open the case for the opposition's team to continue the case.
Let me rearrange my notes real quick.
Sure.
I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Stated in the mechanism, they insist on doing a parallel version of the common currency. But that's the flaw that comes within their debate. Because the second speaker's points given, for example, tourism and immigrant travel, both do not rely on parallel currencies. All right, so I have to tell you about the types of common currency. So the currency that they said, for example, is there is the common currency, which is CIAN, and also the Malaysian currency, which is actually called a parallel common currency. There is two kinds of common currency, which I will go to real quick. All right. So a common currency, there's two types, basically. Let me go to my notes. describes a currency which is used throughout the community and not national currency of either member state or third country. Two types of common currency can be distinguished. Parallel currency, which is a common currency that is created independent or in addition to national currencies, which is what they're trying to do. A member or state or third, it circulates in parallel with national currencies and competes with them. Remember, competes. All right. Second, single currency, the second type. A common currency that replaces all existing national currencies as a result of institutional decision, which is one of the things that the EU has implemented, which is different from this debate. And they're talking about the benefits of single currency. So I'll go back to the document of the EU. All right. A document released by the ECU says that a single currency is necessary to order to reap the full benefits of the monetary union, which they said talked about tourism, which is already improbable as it is. Also, it's easy for immigrant travel, which is cheaper, which is wrong because first they say it's cheaper because there's standardization, which is opposite. Because again, if your standardization meaning everything is worth the same, which is not the point of this debate, which is wrong because cheaper means something there's a difference, which is in the parallel currency. But in a single currency, okay, in a single currency, it's necessary to use a single currency in their mechanism in order to actually use these points because it reaches the full benefits of monetary union. According to this view, only single currency can provide a convenient numeraire for transactions of private economic agents and substantially reduce uncertainties and transaction costs, which is all the things that I mentioned. Also, just because you can bring in immigrants, doesn't that mean like exploitation? And of course, like it will worsen the unemployment rates within those individual ASEAN countries. So that's all for my rebuttals. All right, I'll go to the points we would like to give. All right. Give me a second. Allah, banyak aku cakap ni. All right. I would like to start with the points given by my prime minister, leader opposition. The degree of diversity is higher than among the countries of the EU. It's sometimes argued that a high degree of income differentials could make it difficult to sustain a monetary union among these countries. So even if these countries in a monetary union have perfect equality per capita incomes, as per said the government, they say they want those who have similar per capita incomes. If the co-movement of relative prices and outputs a country is low, conducting a common monetary policy for the union is as a whole is still difficult. So okay, going to my next point, ASEAN's principles and goals. ASEAN member countries have adopted the following fundamental principles in their relations with one another, as contained in the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation in Southeast Asia, TAC, which is some of the few I mentioned: mutual respect for independence, sovereignty, equality, and territorial integrity, national identity of all nations, the right for every state to lead its own national existence free from external interference, subversion or coercion, non-interference in internal affairs of one another, and settlement or differences by disputes by peaceful manner, and effective cooperation among themselves. If the idea of a common currency has been discussed for many years, ASEAN has not made any concrete plans to implement one. For example, the ACU, Asian Currency Unit, proposal, which remains an academic project with no real traction among ASEAN governments or much popular support among citizens. So even if they were to announce everything as they said by the government, not many people actually want this to happen, as they already tried in the past and have failed. Not many people want this for good reason. I'll go next. Thus, no common currency is needed in order. The focus. The focus currently is on promoting greater use of local currencies for regional trade and investment. No initiatives such as the ASEAN local currency bond market and the ASEAN local currency swap arrangement. Thus, no common currency is needed in order to achieve monetary union. And it's completely unnecessary as it would endanger the status quo of ASEAN as it currently is, which is a peaceful and less cooperative region that respects its individual goals and states of sovereignty. On the topic of sovereignty, which is my third point, establishing a monetary union through the common currency will require the members to give up its independent economic sovereignty, which means letting the central bank system, which is what they will need to implement to actually do this common currency, to take over the current national bank systems or at least a part of it. This means that the central bank will have to control over the fiscal policies within the region, which includes the fiscal reserves of a country, the allocated percentage of spending, the ASEAN's regional debt, and so forth. This calls for the needs of fiscal coordination. In the absence of fiscal coordination, fiscal strain will occur. Some countries may pursue unsustainable fiscal policies, leading to high levels of debt or budget deficits in spending, which could lead to economic issues such as black markets and budget funding. This comes to the first political obstacle. There may be political resistance to giving up control over national currencies. As many national currencies within ASEAN have different monetary value, some of the poorest ASEAN countries will be at the economic disadvantage, while those that are stronger in economic status will be at an advantage, which is obvious when looking at the economical standing and differences of each ASEAN's members. This will also cause finance contagion, where the downfall of nation's economy will cause a domino effect on others. In conclusion, there will be a loss of monetary sovereignty. Countries would give up control over their own monetary policy, which could be problematic if they face economic challenges, and also the cost of living. Cost of losing national autonomy in monetary policy means having the cost of giving up decision of independent and sovereign monetary policy within the country. Given then, it will cause more conflict and disagreements and make the implementation of a common currency short-sighted and unsustainable for a larger future. Next, I would like to talk about China real quick. All right, ASEAN presence within our global economy. ASEAN's establishing a common currency might threaten the state of China dominance for global economy, which is what we were talking about. Even if we escape Europe, we will not escape China because it's close to us and it's one of our biggest trading partners. China, being a big trading partner of the majority of ASEAN countries, will feel the effect of monetary union and feel in danger and threaten sanctions or even economic boycott against ASEAN countries as a form of retaliation. This causes China a loss of control. Adopting a common currency often involves ceding some control over monetary policy to a supranational authority, China, with its large economy and ambitions for global leadership. We may be hesitant to give up control, which will affect us a lot because all of us trade with China. Imagine if China feel like, oh my God, these people want to make a common currency which endanger us as a global economy. We don't want that. So they will affect the economy of these countries in the first place. In conclusion, I stand with the stance which is to implement a common currency ASEAN countries is improbable and difficult. And even if it was, it's not sustainable in the long term, causing more economic harm than good. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much to the Deputy Leader of Opposition, Zul. Now, let's welcome the third speaker of the government's whip, Ayman, to the floor. Here.
Assalamualaikum. Am I audible? I don't look good.
Walaikum salam, brother. Yes, you are.
Yeah. So I'm gonna start in right about now. So Assalamualaikum to the judges, the chairman Amir, and the opposition. I'm team government's whip. And yeah, I'm gonna start by rebutting some stuff from team opposition. I feel like they don't really understand our mechanism. I don't know if they don't listen or they just don't comprehend, but we never said that travel would be cheaper. No one stated that it would be cheaper. What we said was it's going to be easier. Since the money, they can use Xian, the money. The currency is the same, common currency. Doesn't mean that it's cheaper. Sure, you can say that it's not cheaper. Yeah, we didn't say that. It's just easier. You just carry around. It's like when you go to contoh lah, you go as an example, my bad. If you go to different states of Malaysia, you still carry around ringgit. That's how it is. But if you go to other countries, you can still use Xian. That's how it works. It's not that it's cheaper. It's just simpler. You don't have to go to money exchange or anything like that. So yeah, you should understand the mechanism. um, and then we want to say that they said about what did they say? Oh yeah, they said that not a lot of countries will work together and want this change. Well, let me ask you something. If you and your brothers make money together as a business, would you be united? Of course, right? You earn money together. And yeah, you talk about Rohingya people. Well, you yourself, the first speaker, talked about non-interference. So what does that mean? You don't have to care about that, right? Non-interference with the other country's business. What we want is unification so that we earn money together. We profit together. No, sorry, I'm not finished. We want to make sure we earn money together, unification of the currency. We just want to earn money together to build the Asian countries. It's not that deep, right? Non-interference. If we were to take from what they believe in, which is non-interference, right? And they talk about EU being a national entity and we're not the same. Why are we not the same? Because we're not EU. We haven't made the change. That's why we are trying to apply this change. We want this to be a change for the countries of ASEAN. You talked about if we were to get over Europe, we will still be on the hands of China. Well, at least we got over Europe. So what are we going to do with your alternative? What is the alternative? Are we going to stay to be oppressed by USA or UK or whatever European country forever? Because yeah, it's hard. It's going to take time. Yes, it is going to take time. Nothing, Rome wasn't built in a day. That's what, that's a saying, right? For a reason. You should understand things just don't be, things just, you can just make good things take times, okay? They just don't happen like that with, now I got new money. ASEAN, I don't need my money. I got ASEAN. No, that's why the mechanism you need to understand before you can come up with these points because they don't make sense. uh, okay, like my first speaker said, it provides oh yeah, right now I'm gonna start with strengthening my speaker's point. So healthy competitiveness. Why is it healthy competitiveness? Is because we strive to improve all of our countries together. Like we said, only the countries with similar or stable economical benchmark are able to join the ASEAN or ASEAN thingy, the common currency, right? So this will provide them to be competitive lah. You see other people, oh yeah, he's working hard to make his country better. Let me make my country better as well. Healthy competitiveness, because at the end of the day, you work together to improve your countries. Instead of, oh, he's doing good, we have to beat him somehow. Instead of that, we can work with the countries that are doing good to do better for ourselves and doing better for the whole ASEAN countries. That's the point that we're making here. Yes, it might take time. Yes, it is slow, but at the end of the day, it's improving us little by little, but it is improving us and changing us for the better. You talk about EU being the supranational entity. Yes, because they did what they did. They did what they did, right? Surely there's like, of course, there's like economical difference between countries in EU, but what do? Look at people in EU. They travel to other countries so frequently because why? They can use the euro money. You know, that's what we meant. And that's another point that my second speaker said, easier traveling. You see people in EU, they travel a lot because it's easy. We can just use euro, you know, instead of, oh, I'm gonna change my money from ringgit to uh baht or ringgit to Singaporean dollar. It's it's simpler. It's not cheaper. That's not what we meant. And at the end of the day, it helps grow the economy because all of us thrive together. ASEAN is not a small organization of countries. You need to understand. It's a it's a big organization. So if we strive together, all these countries, of course, we will improve our economical power. Of course, right? And then if we don't, like, okay, let's give out an example. The United Nations is the perfect example of why we can't let all these United States people or European people make decisions for ourselves. You know what happened when they have the veto power? You see what happened during the Israel and Palestine stuff, right? Most of the people agreed on stopping the war or drop the weapons, essentially. But what do? No, we have the veto. Now we have more power than others. So what I'm saying is, we as a country of ASEAN would like to have power for ourselves to make decisions for ourselves, for the better of our society, our countries, instead of letting them control. Oh yeah, this is no. We want to make changes so that we can have changes for ourselves, and then we are responsible for our own countries, and the only one that can control ourselves is ourselves and no one else, not people from the outside, just us. And that is why I believe we should be making and we should be applying this common currency amongst ASEAN countries so that we can finally be economically free, independent, instead of just a word, instead of just not having a war. We're free, independent. And with that, I would like to rest my case. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much to the government's whip, Ayman, for that speech. All right. Last but definitely not least, I welcome the third and final speaker from the opposition side, Matt, to the floor.
Am I audible?
Yep, all good.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I bid good afternoon to the esteemed judges, to my fellow teammates, and to the worthy opponents. First of all, I want to start my debate by summarizing the point that given by my side. First of all, I have to say that the vast difference between Asian countries. You should know that all the differences in economic, political, and social policy standing makes it hard for the common currency to be maintained, to be sustained. You need to take note that we need to take note that a political scientist named Amitav Acharya said that Southeast Asia is a region marked by a high degree of cultural, linguistic, and religious diversity. So therefore, it's hard for them to completely merge to work together because there's so much diversity in there. And to the second point that our side have given is that the ASEAN's principles and goals. All the goals and principles of each member nation has agreed on make it not relevant to have a common currency. All the TAC, everything that my second speaker said before, it makes it unrelevant to make the common currency um, to practice the common currency. And then the third point is that the sovereignty. By giving up the sovereignty, the members of the ASEAN need to forfeit a lot of stuff. They need to have a fiscal coordination, which has been mentioned by my second speaker, which has been mentioned, which is very impossible to achieve because there's a lot of national interest, different national interests. So now I'll go to the rebuttals. The Prime Minister say that we are escaping from the oppression of currency by the West. That he said that we have all been colonized and we will be shaken down in economics. And then he said that we need to stand together. We need to change a lot of things. We need to and you should know that to stand together, we need to change a lot of things, and we need to forfeit a lot of things. Is it really worth the risk? I want to ask: is it really worth the risk of taking it? There's a lot of the second speaker also said something to encourage nations to work together. As the Whippers say, the ASEAN is not small, so there's a lot of different interests and like political differences, economic disparities, legal and regulatory variances, and national interests. Addressing all these challenges require a lot of resources and a lot of diplomatic efforts. So the Deputy Prime Minister said that it's unfair. Sorry. Okay, the Deputy Prime Minister said that he rebutted that our side said that the motion is unfair. About the Myanmar, about the Rohingya in Myanmar. It's about the diplomatic ties, not the economic ties. And you said that it will improve, but on what cost? And what cost it will improve? The cost, the economic cost, the humanitarian cost. We need to take that we need to take that in consideration. And then he said about tourism. The tourism that he said about inside the ASEAN, it's easier because the common currency, and then there's loss of I want to say that the loss of exchange rate making new currency to take over for countries to adjust their competitiveness based on their economic condition. Additionally, a common currency may contribute to uneven economic impacts on tourism-dependent regions, as they can use individual currency devaluation as a tool to stimulate tourism. Certainly, when countries share a common currency, they lose the ability to independently manipulate their exchange rates. Exchange rates often play a role in tourism competitiveness, as a weaker currency can make a destination more affordable and attractive for foreign visitors. Therefore, it's not really helping the tourism. Without the option to adjust exchange rates individually, countries may face challenges in maintaining competitiveness in the global tourism market. Some regions or countries heavily reliant on tourism might find it difficult to adapt to economic downturns or shift in consumer preferences, as they cannot use the currency devaluation as a tool to stimulate tourism by making their destination more affordable. Furthermore, a common currency may lead to economic imbalances among regions, as the monetary policy that benefits one area may not be suitable for another. This lack of flexibility can impact tourism-dependent regions differently, potentially creating disparities in economic development and employment opportunities within the currency union. This also answers about the local worker increasement on what the Deputy Prime Minister said before. And then I want to highlight that about the collaboration between different nations can have challenges. I want to highlight the challenges that we need to face. First, the political differences. Differences in political ideologies, government structures, and priorities may impede the progress of joint initiative. We need to take this in. We need to be concerned about this. And then the second one is the economic disparities. Economic gaps between nations can result in unequal contribution, and disagreement may arise over resource allocation or financial responsibilities. And then the third one is a legal and regulatory variances. Distinct legal system and regulation can complicate cooperative efforts, requiring extensive negotiation to align the policies that each nation have. And then we have also, of course, the national interests of each countries are different. Many different nations may prioritize their individual interests rather than others' individual interests, which can create conflicts of interest and when working together on international project. Addressing these challenges often require open communication, diplomatic efforts, and willingness to find common ground. International cooperation can be rewarding, but understanding and managing these advantages is crucial for successful collaboration, which is very hard to achieve. And then I want to say that this motion is based on the ASEAN countries, not all Asian, like what had been stated by the Prime Minister. And then I want to reinstate our stance that to implement a common currency among ASEAN countries is improbable and difficult. If it was possible, is not sustainable in the long term, causing more economic harm than good. That's all. Thank you.
All right, then. Thank you very much to the opposition's whip for his speech. So, seeing as that is the final speech, we will now have some time for the preparation of reply speeches. Each team, well, the time given will be 4 minutes. Please use these 4 minutes very wisely to cook up a good reply speech. All right, and that's the bell. So, 4 minutes have now passed. It is time for the reply speeches. We will first start with the opposition's reply speech. So let's please welcome the opposition summary speaker, Zul, to the floor.
You may record me for the last time because this is my. Oh, sorry. Oh my God, we're unmuted. Oh my- so, where is the timer? I do not see timer.
The timer is here, no worries.
Wait, why is it not on my screen? Okay, got it. Right. Noise. Record. Thank you. Okay. I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. This debate is a support debate. This house supports, not a this house believes stand, which means the mechanism is not much focused. It's not the main focus in this debate. So the thing that the government likes to do is rely mainly on the mechanism, and besides the mechanism, there really isn't much substance to their debate, as they've been relying mainly on the mechanism and whatever substantive borders that they try to put within this debate, which that's why we as the opposition felt it was unfair and too narrow, because we as to have a good debate, we have to broaden the horizons of this debate. We have to see the full scope of this debate, and that's why we challenge, and this is why we win despite that. All right, so because first I will talk about the points that we've given. For example, a difference in legal and economic system of ASEAN still stands because they did not attack that very well. ASEAN principles and goals, it still stands, and they even agree that, for example, some of the principles we said was non-interference, which they agree. And since, economic union, aka common currency, needs you to interfere in the fiscal system and also the monetary system, they not only agree with us as the opposition, but also they are against their own points, their own motion. So their own stance on the motion. And of course, third, sovereignty, they did not rebut that. Also, the only point that they started to rebut, they only had a try to rebut was ASEAN's economic risk within the global economy, which was a very, very flawed rebuttal. They talk about which I will get to their points, talk about like how escape from West, escape from Europe, and they try to rebut about our rebuttal, which is about China, which I will get to later nanti. All right. So the burden of proof that we given to them, which our burden of proof is implementation of a common currency will bring more harm, economic harm than benefit in ASEAN countries is proven. So we've already proven our BOP, but they have not proven the BOP. I'll state them for them. We gave them that the government side needs to prove how ASEAN countries are going to willingly participate in implementation of common currency. Was tried to be proven, but was weak. And second, the government side needs to prove how ASEAN has enough similarities to the EU to implement the same system they've implemented and not go through drastic economic effects of the common currency, which is not proven. All right. So they gave the cons are greater for the pros. They gave us the BOP, we've proven that. So I say the only clashes in this debate so far I've seen is ASEAN's economic risk of the global economy, because they say that we escape from Europe because we make our own currency. They say, because we're playing another game from the EU, from the USA, because we have our own national currency, meaning we escape the economic situation altogether. But no, economics is like not like when you play another game, you escape entirely. You're still connected to the EU, you're still connected to the US. And also, of course, from the fourth point I talk about China, you're still connected to China. And not only are you still connected, now you are threatening China's position as a global economy, which is dangerous, which is what the 4 point was talking about. Now, not only you do not fully escape the EU, which is what they're trying to prove, but now you put a risk yourself because of threatening China as a global economy, which again brings more economic harm than good. They're not proven their stance, and now they bring more economic harm towards ASEAN countries than they will ever will. All right. So a few things that they said, of course, tourism, which is more attractive to tourists, because they said ASEAN common currency lost exchange rate flexibility, which again is not relevant because they played by the parallel currency exchange, which is not part of this, because this requires transactions, and the only monetary system that works for this is the single common currency exchange, not the parallel one, which again makes it redundant. Local increase, which is I don't see why it's a good initiative for these countries, because then it will not solve unemployment in their country, which again the bad point. And that's all actually in their points. So with that, you can see why we as opposition win this debate. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much to the summary speaker for the opposition side. So now let's welcome the final speaker for today, as well as the final speaker for Dean's Cup. I would like to welcome Haziq from the government side to sum up this for their team and for this debate as a whole.
Assalamu alaikum. Am I audible?
Walaikum salam, Reza. Yes, you are.
All right. Okay, so I'll begin. So the motion today was this House supports the implementation of a common currency among ASEAN countries. And as I explained before, the split in this debate would be pros versus cons. And if having a common currency will give pros to ASEAN as a whole. And what the opposition side had to prove was it gives more cons. Now, on the point of opposition proving that it gives more cons, I would like to point out that they targeted us on our mechanism, that we are relying on our mechanism. Well, we can't just vaguely talk about ideas without having it concrete in some type of mechanism. Because to combat these cons, we need to have a system, right? So that is why we created a mechanism. If you find any holes in our mechanism, then all to you, but you didn't. All right, then they accused us of reducing the scope to not all ASEAN countries. The motion states that among ASEAN countries, not among all ASEAN countries. Therefore, in our mechanism, we stated that this is a gradual thing. People in all the countries will know, and then they will vote. Therefore, nobody will feel pressured to join. So that is also in line with the non-interference policy of ASEAN. All right, and on the topic of non-interference, as they brought up multiple times, we are again pointing out that this has nothing to do with non-interference. This is a teamwork between all the ASEAN countries because we all share a common goal. Here is another point given by the opposition, which is goal and principle differences amongst the countries, right? Again, like my third speaker said, it's not that deep. Everyone wants to make money. Don't you think all the ASEAN countries would like to be more economically stable? Obviously. And then they talk about the differences, or we need to overcome the differences in our society, as if the EU doesn't have differences. Have you seen a British guy try to order a baguette? Okay, so we have differences, and what we have proven is that there are challenges to overcome these differences. Obviously, most of the opposition's points were that, oh, it's hard, there's instability, it's hard, the cultural differences, oh, we can't work together, oh, there'll be this and that. It is difficult. We have said multiple times, all my speakers have mentioned, to implement this common currency is difficult, but it is important. To enjoy the sun, you need to go through rain, like Gambang is going through right now. So we need to undergo these challenges so we can reap the benefits that will come later on. What benefits have been thoroughly explained by my second and third speaker on the sense of physical, practical benefits that we see in the sector of tourism. And for me, from an ideological perspective of benefits, it is we are escaping economic oppression. And one thing that the opposition said that basically shows that they agree with us that we are escaping something is they said, oh, once you escape the EU, then you'll have to face China. At least we escaped the EU. So another thing I want to point out is that we are striving for change in ASEAN because we want to make a better ASEAN for everyone through the ASEAN. So, but then in the opposition side, they have presented no alternative to what we should do. As they said, there's economic instability. In our mechanism, we stated that we will have to reach a certain benchmark where there's economic stability for us to work together in this ASEAN currency. But in the opposition's world, the alternative is just stay poor. So what would you want to do? Fight through, power through, and hopefully one day have a strong society of ASEAN together with a common currency where we work together and build ourselves up from the ground up? Or would you just like to stay poor and stay oppressed? That is the point of this debate. And as my second speaker has mentioned, the many benefits that could come from this fight, even though it is difficult, we strongly believe as the government team that it is worth it to go and make a common currency in ASEAN countries because it will be beneficial for ASEAN as a whole. And the opposition has failed to prove otherwise, and the cons are all that it's just difficult and they're lazy. With that, I'd like to rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you very much for closing up our debate today, Haziq. So let's give everyone and give yourselves a last final round of applause for this final debate. Right. As this round is a silent round, obviously, there will be no verbal adjudication, and the results should be announced on 1st of February, Thursday night, at Kawarizmi Hall. Congratulations to all debaters and thank you to all the judges for coming. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Salam.
Wait, Amir, I want to know one thing. Siapa spectator?
Oh.
Reveal yourself.
Spectator, this debate are on live
Live.
IG.
Yes. Live.
Oh no, spectator. Oh,
Oh, spectator. Oh, there. Okay.
dang.
Okay.
Okay,
as
Hazim
long
Tanda. Good.
Okay, as long as my brother's not watching. Right. Okay, for now.
He is. Don't worry, he is.
Habis lah kau.
Where do we go
There's
now?
a
Amir?
reason for the judge for this one because he says it's going to be bias. Conflict
where
of
do we go
interest.
now?
That's why he the judge.
Okay.
Amir, where do we go now?
Oh, good question. No idea.
No,
Arif,
is there
the
extra
issue. You need to.
Yeah, extra
I
downstairs. I want to
I-
steal the food.
Ayman hasn't been around for the past hour. No idea where he is.
He was here just now.
Bruh.
No, he's gone.
Bruh. Should we go back to LRA or ke balik terus?
I want food. I want food. I want to steal food.
I want to
Yeah, up
see
to you
food.
guys.
Okay.
Come here
Okay,
and
go
then
LRA.
let's go.
Okay.
Allah Akbar. Siapa tu? Faham. Okay, have fun guys. Good luck. Thank you guys.
Bye
Nice
bye.
debate.
Thank you.
Nice debate. Bye bye.
It was debate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you to all the judges.
That was offensive, bro. What the fuck? Alright, bye bye.